So, I'd like to begin with a story. When I was in middle school, my friends and I were watching a movie called 300. The movie is based on an ancient Greek battle where men fight valiantly, beating each other brutally to the death. Not quite sure why as 12-year-olds we were watching a movie based on bloodshed and gore, but it was quite entertaining. After the film ended, like many middle school boys, we try to reenact scenes from the film. We wanted to feel like those warriors who were strong, fearless, and masculine. My friends started ripping off their shirts, laughing and flexing, trying to see if their bodies looked anything like the actors on the screen. Well, I stayed in the back. You see, I kept my shirt on. And as I was sitting there, I was pulling the fabric away from my body, making sure it didn't cling on to me. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about the movie's plot or ancient Greece, but rather that I'm the only one in this room who doesn't really fit or look like a man. At 12 years old, I had already learned this dangerous lesson, that being a man meant you need to have this particular body. And because I looked overweight, I felt like I was failing at masculinity before I could really even understand it. For me, I felt like there was this right and a wrong in how you can actually look like a man. And because of how the way my body looked, I felt like I was failing it. I felt like I was on the wrong side of that line. And this moment wasn't unique. It was one of the many key moments in my life where I tied my body to this unhealthy idea of masculinity. You see, this doesn't just affect me. It affects a majority of men in the U.S. The Men's Health Clinic reports that a large part of men in the United States face body dissatisfaction and struggle with mental health, which are directly tied with the pressures of masculinity and fitting this ideal body. So today, I want to explore a couple of things with you all. First, finding out what masculinity really means and trying to define that concept, before seeing how our bodies can become tangled with this, before then finally seeing how can we actually solve this and redefine masculinity, and people can finally feel more comfortable in their own skin. So I realized, as I was writing this speech in my bed last week, I didn't actually know what masculinity really meant. So I decided to find out what the definition was and went on a cesspool of free speech on the internet. Reddit. FewAddress76 says that masculinity is just having strength. Wasn't quite satisfied with this definition, so I kept scrolling. Another user by Mr. Cheeseby85 says that masculinity is just having a lot of testosterone. Well, I was a guy and I had testosterone, but I still didn't feel like a man. So I moved on. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a user of Wartha53 who says that we often confuse two ideas of masculinity. There's traditional masculinity and there's unhealthy masculinity. Traditional masculinity is the values we often associate with being a man. Values like strength, courage, and discipline. Those values inherently aren't harmful and can actually be good. The problem is when those values start to become rigid, conditional, and tied to your appearance. Toxic masculinity is what happens when masculinity tells men that their body depends on them never asking for help, never struggling, and trying to fit this narrow image of what a man is supposed to look like. These days, it's no longer about actually being masculine. It's more about being acceptable. So for me, masculinity didn't show up as strength or aggression. It instead showed up as shame. You see, growing up overweight, I've constantly struggled with this pressure. I've constantly faced this pressure and struggled with this idea of masculinity. I always wanted to look like these men I saw and praised in movies and social media. I didn't like the way I looked. I wanted to look like prime Christian Bale or Batman back then. Now, because of that, what I would do is I would start avoiding conversations in public, and I would even try to not avoid taking my shirt off at pools. And this is exactly what toxic masculinity does. It steals confidence before people even have a chance to build it. For me, I thought that masculinity was something I had to earn, and I could only unlock it once my body looked a certain way. Because of this, it forced me to go towards these unrealistic and unhealthy standards, and to the point where no matter how hard I tried, it never really seemed to be enough. So, how can we actually solve this? How can we redefine masculinity? Well, we can first start by saying, how can we stop tying our worth to our body image? Our strength our worth shouldn't be determined, our masculinity shouldn't be determined through your body appearance. It shouldn't be tied to how much strength you have, whether you're man enough, or whether you have enough courage. Masculinity should be determined through how you live, not how you look. It shouldn't be determined in your abs, your muscle, or even a number on the scale, but instead through your responsibility, your self-respect, and through your courage. It should be about how you treat others, it should be about how you treat others and how you take care of yourself. So, back in 7th grade, now that I look back at it, I see that I didn't have an unmasculine body, but what I had instead really was an unmasculine definition of masculinity. One that disqualified me from understanding what it really meant to be a man before I could really understand it. So if I could go back to that moment where I was pulling my shirt, I'd tell that kid that when you look in the mirror, that should never determine whether you're masculine or not. It should determine in how you live, which is through your character, care, and through your courage. Thank you all so much.